Hello, my friends. Welcome to my podcast again. I'm Zoe. If you ask me about the best companion for learning English, I'd say it has to be English dictionaries. It's probably one of the closest companions for almost every English learner. We use it to look up a word's pronunciation, meanings, and example sentences. However, curiosity about a word can sometimes result in information overload. Today, I'd like to share my experience on when to dive deep and when to skim when using a dictionary. To answer this question, we need to distinguish between explicit and implicit learning. In explicit learning, the goal is not only to understand the content, but to study it in detail. In other words, you have to really milk the language. So the materials used are usually concise, focused, and classic, often from textbooks with clear explanations and exercises. So if you are learning explicitly, it is a good idea to deep dive into dictionary entries. What I mean by deep dive is to study the word's meaning, usage, collocations, and sentence examples. You're encouraged to take notes to help you memorize the information. Implicit learning refers to extensive reading or listening. That is to engage with content primarily for pleasure or for information, not for intensive or explicit learning. So the goal is to improve fluency, and the language acquisition happens naturally along the way. But in this case, you don't have to stop for every new word and look it up in the dictionary, as you do in explicit learning. It would be a waste of time. Just try looking up words after finishing a paragraph or a chapter, and you look it up only for its basic meaning. Don't dig too deep or try to memorize everything immediately. Otherwise, you may feel overwhelmed and lose motivations. If you can't help but put down something, just write down the words and with these Chinese translations. So as you can see, the way you use a dictionary varies in different type of learnings. The second issue we need to talk about is to choose the right dictionary. My suggestion is use an English dictionary when possible, because nuances between languages are often lost in translation. For example, the word assume might be translated into Chinese as 认为, so it's pretty much like the word think. But does it mean the same thing? Can they be used interchangeably? If you check an English dictionary, you'll see that assume is to accept something as true without question. So in this way, you understand, I think you're right and I assume you're right have different type of tones. Another example, recommend and refer to might both be translated as 推荐 in Chinese, but they're used differently in English. Recommend is to suggest that someone or something would be good or suitable. So the sentence examples would be, I can recommend the chicken in mushroom sauce. 我推荐这样一个菜. However, refers to is often send some people to a hospital or to some special place. For example, your doctor may refer you to a physical therapist. 医生推荐你到一个身体理疗师那里去。在中文的意思都是推荐，但是在英文当中的用法是完全不一样的哦。There's always an exception. When you are doing extensively for comprehension, I think it's okay to use convenient tools like 有道 or other bilingual dictionaries just for a quick check. And if you are practicing pronunciations, please make sure to use Oxford, Cambridge, or Longman dictionaries. These ones are authoritative. In my pronunciation classes, I often find students mispronounce words after using less reliable resources. The aforementioned principles are for general use. You can tweak it or fine-tune it based on your habits. For me, I'm a heavy dictionary user, looking up words around 100 times a day on average. I'm doing this simply because I read and listen in English every day, and I encounter two main situations. One is to learn new words. The other is to reinforce the words I have seen. Because personally, I'm a bit OCD and I can't stand not knowing a word's meaning and having a vague idea of it. Even though I'm not able to memorize all of them immediately, I just want to know its meaning at the moment. I think English Dictionary is a great companion for any English learner, so get used to it and find your comfort zone to use it in a way that doesn't leave you overwhelmed and does not waste your time. How often do you use English Dictionary? What is your favorite? Please leave a comment down below. I'm Zoe, and I'll see you next time.